swear in, Mr. Gill. Thank you.
Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And we will be operating under the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure and the local rules of the United States District Court for Massachusetts concerning the conduct of depositions. Good morning, Mr. Gill. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Michael Gill. I'd like to make one disclosure before we start, is that I was made aware just after the deposition yesterday that the videographer and the stenographer did work for the the Racing Commission. Is this tape, or anything to do with this tape, involving the Racing Commission, or the Commission will see it?
I will tell you at the outset, I had no thought about the Racing Commission or anything to do with the Racing Commission. Have had no contact with the Racing Commission and have no understanding that anyone from our office is going to contact the Racing Commission in any way.
But that was a disclosure that was made, so I just believe that we should, well...
I don't know what disclosure you're referring to, Mr. Gill.
Well, after the meeting, the stenographer and the videographer, and talking about horse racing, we were just casually talking, they made a disclosure to me, but she did, didn't she?
She said she could not talk about the case.
That she has done work for the Racing Commission, and she inferred that you also did.
I have never.
But you don't remember her saying that?
She did say that she could not talk about the case with you.
Mike Gill, to the people of Pennsylvania, what I'm going to go over with you now is of the most extreme nature of corruption. Through your politicians, through your courts, through businesses in the state of Pennsylvania. I have created 3 videos prior to this. We have them reposted, we're calling it Trilogy, and you can go through everything that I claimed previously to bring you to right now. And to right now is I'm going to step through this and prove to you that not only has there been a cover-up, we are now in the process of a cover-up of that cover-up. And we can prove it. Now I want you to go back to 2010. I'm going to show you a brief clip on ESPN. But we turned around and said that I wanted this investigated. Back in 2010, I was telling you that jockeys were pulling horses.
In the end, Michael Gill believes the grand jury will vindicate him, and in the process, he hopes, expose the entire industry.
I hope they investigate everything. I mean, I'm already a bad guy. I'm not running for office, and I don't give a shit what they think of me. You know, investigate everything. Just be open and tell people what you find. And then I wrote a statement in 2012. And in this statement, I broke it down for you. I turned around and told you that jockeys were pulling horses, that track management was involved, the trainers were involved, that this was a giant gambling syndicate. Well, 3 years later, are we wrong? In fact, Ray Pollock, who commented on that then, turns around and had to change your heart. In fact, I have an email from Ray about he wished I would run for governor in Pennsylvania and that racing commissioner in dire need of change. You're right. If you remember, in 2010 and 12, I told you your commission was totally corrupt. And it's been corrupted through the Penn National. See? That's one of the areas of concern for Penn National. The commission and the people from the state. Not if you own them. Remember I told you Augusto was the commissioner's attorney who was coordinating that. I told you that in 12. That's exactly what happened. Let's keep going through where we are right now. Now, go back to the board. And I will show it to you again. On wrong side of the tracks. What did I tell you? I told you the first person we go after is Jenkins. Let's suppose that I have a pad of paper and a pen, 2 ham sandwiches, and immunity. Back in 2010, I'd have had it done in a week, maybe 2. It's been 5 years. Now, the crime was reported mostly by the agents of the jockeys, the ones that weren't involved in the corruption, but had to witness it, had to see them putting the races together. Jenkins was your racing secretary. If you remember the board, he was Mr. X. He's front and center. He would have been exactly the first person the FBI spoke to. And it was. And you know what Jenkins told him? Who works for Penn National, who was a prime figure in all this horse racing corruption embedded. Well, you know what happened? Jenkins suddenly retires. Wow. I heard he cried like a baby. He didn't want to go. They had to have him go. Wait a minute. Now the FBI talked to Jenkins. We all know Jenkins was the heart of this. Where's Jenkins? You haven't seen him get arrested now, because that would tie you into Penn National. At this moment, I want you to know there's 2 stops in this. Penn National and the corrupt politicians that are wired in. I'll explain. So there's the 2 avenues. When the FBI, Bruce DuPay, I know you're not going to like that, Bruce, and I did get your threats. Tough shit, by the way. So now, Bruce DuPay talks to Jenkins. Jenkins retires. Jenkins would have given you Donnie Brown. Now, why is Donnie Brown so important? If you remember and you go back to Wrong Side of the Tracks, I said that Donnie Brown was dead center of all of this. But most importantly, he was the schmoozer. The schmoozer? Yeah. When the FBI caught Jenkins, they knew they couldn't go past Brown, because Brown just happens to have all the politicians in his pocket. Now you may question that. What if I show you this? See this stack of paper right here? This is contributions. This is public officials eating at the Firehouse Restaurant. You know, Donnie Brown's place. All the fundraisers. You can retrieve all this information. I'll put it at the end of the video. You get to look at it yourself. But this is just this year's. You can imagine what the last few years have looked like. This is people who work in your state who is writing off events, food, and drink at Donnie Brown's restaurant. Now, if I called him the schmoozer, meaning the guy who connects with all these politicians, doesn't that make sense? Isn't he running all these fundraisers for senators, judges, AGs? It's all here to be seen. That's exactly who he is, which is why the FBI stopped at his door. He sold his restaurant. Now, Sheely, that I put on the board, was the bookie. He was Brown's partner. Right. You bet on football and basketball. Sheely was at the Firehouse Restaurant. In fact, you know who his favorite customers were? Public officials. In fact, 7 years ago, one of your legislatures were down $75,000 to him and, turns out, the mob out of Philly. And the FBI investigated, let Sheely walk. Right? 30 years he's a bookie. And now he goes to jail. I talked to Sheely, by the way, a couple times, just recently. And I had a talk with him. And I said, you know, I can't understand how you knew this racing was corrupt and you would take a bet on horse racing. You know what he said to me? I'd never take a bet on horse racing. You may not believe this because they're calling him right here. The FBI's calling him the kingpin of gambling. They even have the Racing Commission taking credit for it. Hold on now. Shealy only takes bets on football, baseball, and basketball. Not horse racing. Now, he might have made a couple, but he wouldn't take one from Penn, and no other bookie would either. Well, wait a minute now. You see this whole organization of crime? It's regarding Penn National, trainers, vets, jockeys that all work there. So why is Shealy the kingpin? Because he's not. They could have arrested him a dozen times the last 30 years. Why now? Because guess what Shealy told me? Right. His good buddy Donnie Brown, he believes, turned him in. And we know that that's true. See, we have a situation in a cover-up. The previous cover-up, by coming out public, we foiled that for them. What happens when your cover-up gets caught? Come up with a better one. Well, this is their first of a better one. So, Shealy is a bookie for 30 years. He didn't take money on Penn. This whole operation regarding horses has nothing to do with that. Brown, no. Because there's a wire out there. That's how they do it. Why is it Donnie Brown can't be touched? I've introduced you to all the politicians and the millions that are spent within your state in his restaurant. It's a good idea. Brown could give you Penn National. See? He's a two-hitter here. There's our other stop. We don't want to shut down Penn National, especially when 70% of it is owned by the Wynn Casino in the Sands. In fact, you may be distressed to hear that the CEO of the company has sold all his stocks. Well, why would that be? And you know what else he did? He's leveraging the buildings and taking out the equity. Or what I like to say, light a match, right? And back his way out of there. See, they can't connect the two. They always chop the head off. But they figure they're going to pass this one by us all. Because I have a feeling the Fed's even told the institutional lenders, you know, like 70% Wynn and Sands, don't worry about it. We'll get ownership management out of there. Just in case someone figures out and drops the bomb on them. Well, listen, I got you in my sights. Now, so Shealy turns around and tells me the reason why Brown has to stop is because of all these. They can't take Brown. He's got a computer that will spell it all out. Remember, that stack of paper are all your public officials walking into his restaurant. And they go upstairs and they gamble. They gamble with Shealy. Brown is in control on knowledge to a wire service. Not just any wire service, Cantor Gaming. Now you remember, I wrote about Cantor Gaming. I turned around and said that if you followed their wire, you come up with public officials and bookies. That's right. In fact, I showed you this wire and going from Cantor Gaming, which is, by the way, owned by Penn National. Right. No one could be betted unless they had Cantor wire service. Think about this. Nobody's taking this bet. Where is the money going? Singapore, maybe? Right. In fact, you know what the name of it now is? CG Technology. Wait a minute. Who could that be? It's Penn National again. See? Now let's go to the history of Penn. The Cantor Gaming Wire Service. Queen, DA announces indictment, nationwide sports betting ring. Really? Look at Cantor Fitzgerald, Cantor Gaming, Mike Colbert. Mike Colbert worked for Penn National. They're calling it an online gambling syndicate. Well, let's go on. We got a couple more titles. busted illegal gambling ring. Defendants have ties to organized crime. Right. Penn National, illegal offshore gambling ring, Hertz, Nevada. Cantor Gaming Sportsbook. Mike Colbert works for Penn National. So let's see now. We have an illegal wire service that's tied in with Brown, tied in with these bookies. When I pulled this, I also came up with Wynn Casino. Now, I didn't understand the connection. They were buying land for a casino up here in Boston. But I was traveling through the Cantor wire. And then I also came up with a couple of individuals, Donacio, Lightbody, that they were betting through. Guess what? Turned out they all got arrested. You know what? For not disclosing the fact that they were an organized crime and sold the land to Wynn. The Costa Nostra of New England. Not my words, the Boston Globe. So let's understand. Cantor Gaming wire service was connected with the Genovese family from New York. Nice partners. Turn around in Mike Colbert from Cantor Gaming, M Resort, which is owned by Penn National. He's their guy, is indicted and arrested and sentenced for illegal gambling. This is their wire. They changed the name later to CG Technology. It's the same people. Where did all that money go? Right? On a crooked wire. And there it is. They're still doing business, but this is something that you have to pay attention to. We don't just have Penn National being corrupt. You know where that money's going? It's going to these politicians. It's going to these fundraisers. It's going to bribery. It's how the corrupt own your politicians, own your judges. And that's exactly what they're doing. That's the problem, Pennsylvania. That's what they're doing. Turn around, and I said that first one was a cover-up. Here they are. Trainers, employees charged with fraud. David Wells, Patricia Rogers. It was bullshit. They were already out. Patricia Rogers is already working as a trainer in Penn National. That was the first cover-up. It didn't work. But they are running into some problems, right? We've got 4 veterinarians who just got arrested. Right here. You know why? They're still doing the same thing. In fact, you see the guys, the trainers on that board, 2 weeks ago they had 15 bad tests in a week. FBI can't have that up. They're running around the grounds covering it up. You know why? Because the guys are still on that board and they're still cheating. They have the vets, meaning they have the trainers. Why are they waiting to come forward with all this information? They want to see what we're going to do. You're going to buy that. Good enough. Now, I'm having a special request. Mr. Trump, I have somebody who is working on your campaign. Trump stands by immigrant remarks, blames media. Now, as far as I'm concerned, we're all immigrants, unless you're an American Indian. But we do live in a dangerous world. Go back to that board. Go back to Paul Jenkins. The thing about the corrupt is they've got to hire the corrupt. They need people who can keep their mouth shut. So the corrupt know, you know where to go to? Especially if you don't live in this country. For instance, like Mexico. Some of the best rooms I've ever had were people from Mexico. But again, I reiterate, this is not the time not to be safe. Here you go, Mr. Trump. When I introduced saying that Nubia Bomadia was taking $1,200 to $1,500 to get someone licensed, they are handing them a state license equivalent to a driver's license, an identification. That person most likely is living on the backside of the track. No address. Living in a dorm that people don't even know his real name. He gets to eat at that track kitchen. So he can survive right there and nobody knows he's there. Now, Penn National owns a lot of tracks, but see, they're corrupt. Now, when I brought this up about Nubia Bombardier, 2 days later, feds charged 5 illegal aliens arrested in central Pennsylvania. All racetrack people, you see? So, Mr. Trump, if you're serious about this, I guarantee you, you look in the backside of these racetracks, you're going to see mass issues. She's taking bribes and putting illegals in. One of those 5 people were wanted for murder in Puerto Rico, by the way. See? We got lucky, not a terrorist, just a murderer. Remember now, the other untouchable is Penn National itself. That's why Chris McGurley, Vice President of Gaming, Mark Lowy, the Director of Racing, was going to the commission back in 10 every day. Jeff Castle has told me that directly himself, and has told many others, that he was told by them that if he said anything about the corruption on the track, he would be fired. He went to Stefano, the executive secretary of the commission, and go, these people are asking me to cover up a crime. You know what he said to him? If you say anything, we're going to fire you. See, they own the commission. Isn't that so? Ask Ray Pollock. He just said that in an email that I should run for governor of Pennsylvania. And that the commission needs dire help. Well, what does he know? They said the commission just helped arrest the kingpin. Remember? Baloney. Now in closing, this is an opportunity, a real opportunity, to take down a massive corruption that's not just through Penn National, it goes through your whole state. How many of these people are on this Spence account just this year that works for this state and been working out of the Firehouse restaurant? You don't think he possibly bribed any of these people? Of course he did. But he would have had to be this for the person that I said he was. Right? Could Randall be on this? Bet you if we look, we'll find him. I just found a couple of senators and a judge. You can find it too. I will attach this. Now, this is what I'm asking you to do. I've read your comments. What can we do? It's all corrupt. Well, I'll tell you why it's different here and now. As it is in the case of New Hampshire, here we've caught them. We've outright caught them with the evidence and witnesses to prove it. In fact, Steve Shealy asked me to get an immunity with the Justice Department. Well, I'm going to do my damnedest. Now, why didn't the FBI say, hey, what do you got to tell us? You know what Shealy's going to tell you? About all these people and about the politicians in the state of Pennsylvania. That's why he had to go to jail and not immunity. They had to protect Brown, right? Well, he's asking for immunity from the Department of Justice. You are on notice. You will see my account number on this, my case number. I want the people of Pennsylvania to download this and see. You've seen enough evidence in these videos to come forwards and fill it out and say, listen, Department of Justice, you're paid to investigate. Investigate. Listen, if I'm all wrong, since 2010, and do we have a gambling syndicate now? Right? Do we have people going to jail, right? Back in 10, they were laughing. They're not laughing now. Either of these guys. But our job is not done. Don't let them cover up these crimes. Fill out those documents. Send them into Washington. Say you did something about this. You're fed up. You're tired of running through the corruption within your state. Don't we want justice for our children? I am showing you how to get it. If you don't fill out these things, you have lost the right to complain. You have lost the right to say that we live in justice because you've accepted it. Thank you.